In 2026, Adrian Austin, a then 45-year-old man from Haworth, was jailed for 17 years with an additional 2 years on license after being convicted of 11 historic child sexual offences against his 2 younger half-sisters. Adrian Austin, of Sanderson Road, Haworth, was sentenced at Manchester Crown Court on Friday, the 31st of July 2026, following a trial in June where a jury unanimously found him guilty of 11 counts, including 6 counts of sexual intercourse with a girl under 13, 4 counts of indecent assault, and 1 count of indecency with a child. The court heard that Austin began abusing his sisters when they were aged 5 and 6 at the family home and later at his flat in Manchester. The victims, Nikita and Melissa, waived their right to anonymity to speak out. Greater Manchester Police acknowledged and apologised for failing to fully investigate an initial report made in 1997 before securing his conviction. The judge sentenced Austin to 17 years in prison, with an extended license period of 2 years upon release. Following his convictions for child rape and historic sexual abuse, Austin was placed on the sex offenders register for life. He also remains subject to statutory public protection notification requirements, lifetime license supervision, and mandatory risk management protocols by law enforcement upon any eventual release from custody. In 2026, Benjamin Jackson, a 28-year-old Metropolitan police officer, was charged with multiple child sexual offences and bailed to appear in court on the 4th of August. PC Benjamin Jackson, 28, was charged on Wednesday, the 27th of May 2026, following an investigation into sexual misconduct. He faces 7 counts of engaging in non-penetrative sexual activity with a child aged 13 to 15 and 1 count of causing or inciting a child aged 13 to 15 to engage in sexual activity. Jackson was granted bail and is due to appear at Guildford Magistrates Court on Tuesday, the 4th of August 2026. Following his charges for child sexual offences, Jackson remains subject to ongoing judicial proceedings, strict bail conditions, and administrative action by the Metropolitan Police Service pending the outcome of court hearings. In 2026, Ross Jameson, a 43-year-old man, was jailed for 8 years at the High Court in Edinburgh after pleading guilty to child sexual offences involving 8 young girls across Scotland. Ross Jameson appeared at the High Court in Edinburgh on Friday, the 31st of July 2026, where he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The court heard that throughout 2025, Jameson used a mobile phone application to groom and indecently communicate with 8 girls aged between 9 and 15 years old. He coerced the victims into taking part in sexual acts and sending indecent images and videos of themselves. Jameson had previously entered guilty pleas at Edinburgh Sheriff Court on Tuesday, the 10th of February 2026. The judge sentenced Jameson to 8 years in custody for his offences. Following his convictions for child sexual abuse and grooming, Jameson was placed on the sex offenders register. He also remains subject to statutory public protection notification requirements, lifetime licence conditions, and mandatory risk management protocols by Police Scotland upon any eventual release from prison. In 2026, Scott Layfield, a 52-year-old man from Leigh-on-Sea, was jailed for 22 years after specialist detectives convicted him of 26 non-recent sexual offences against 6 young girls. Scott Layfield, of Paddock Close, Leigh-on-Sea, was sentenced at Basildon Crown Court on Thursday, the 30th of July 2026, to immediate custody for 22 years, following his conviction in May on 26 charges, including rape and sexual assault. The court heard that the offences, predominantly occurring in the Rayleigh area, were committed against 6 girls between 2011 and 2021. The investigation was led by specialist detectives who worked closely with the survivors throughout the process. The judge handed Layfield a 22-year custodial sentence, ordering that he must serve an additional 6 years on an extended license upon any release. The court also made Layfield subject to an indefinite sexual harm prevention order, SHPO. Following his convictions for rape and serious child sexual abuse, Layfield was placed on the sex offenders register for life. He also remains subject to statutory public protection notification requirements, lifetime license supervision, and long-term risk management protocols by law enforcement upon any eventual release from custody. In 2026, Keith Allen, an 82-year-old retired music teacher from Sibford Gower, was jailed for 8.5 years for the historic rape of a teenager he groomed during private music lessons. Keith Allen, of Sibford Gower, Oxfordshire, was sentenced at Birmingham Crown Court on the 23rd of June 2026 after being found guilty at trial of the rape of a 16-year-old girl. The court heard that Allen abused his position as a music tutor, grooming the victim from the age of 15 after inviting her to his home in Harborne for clarinet lessons. His predatory behavior escalated from sexual touching to full intercourse in the 1990s. The victim made a formal complaint to West Midlands Police in 2023, leading to a full investigation by their major crime team and his subsequent conviction. The judge sentenced Allen to 8.5 years in prison. Following his conviction for rape and historic sexual abuse, Allen was placed on the sex offenders register for life. He also remains subject to statutory public protection notification requirements, lifetime license supervision, and long-term risk management protocols by law enforcement upon any eventual release from custody. In 2026, Haranand Rai, a 35-year-old man from Barnsley, was jailed for 6 years after being convicted of sexually assaulting 2 women following a night out. Haranand Rai, of Tennyson Road, Barnsley, was sentenced at Sheffield Crown Court on Friday, the 31st of July 2026, after a jury found him guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault following a 4-day trial. The court heard that South Yorkshire Police launched an investigation after 2 women reported being sexually assaulted by Rai in Barnsley in February 2023. Rai denied the charges throughout police interviews and pleaded not guilty, forcing both victims to relive their ordeals during trial proceedings before the jury unanimously convicted him. The judge sentenced Rai to a total of 6 years in prison. Following his convictions for sexual offences, Rai was placed on the sex offenders register. He also remains subject to statutory public protection notification requirements, license conditions, and long-term risk management by law enforcement upon any eventual release from custody.